Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position along with your favorite beverage to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience of SmithWeekly, including Brian H., Cindy W., Chris P., Luke A., and Brent S. On the program today is a returning guest and one we're pleased to have come back and update. Mr. Keith Bodnarchuk is back with us on this episode. Keith is the president and CEO of Cosa Resources. The company is focused on uranium exploration in Canada's Athabasca Basin with a portfolio of prospective uranium exploration grounds, including its strategic partnership on exploration with Denison Mines, where it holds a 70% interest in 3 projects, as well as its 100% owned uranium projects in Ursa, Orion, and other projects in the portfolio, with focus on the eastern side of the basin. Cosa Resources is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol COSA and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol COSAF. Keith, good to have you on the program. Welcome back.
Yeah, great to be back. Obviously, you did cover a lot of exciting stuff for us, so yeah, I'm happy to be back on here.
Absolutely, Keith. Good to chat again. Happy New Year, and 2025 looks like there's going to be no shortage of events in the sector and sentiment changes and all the good stuff that, of course, broad markets impacting the uranium thesis as well this year. I want to get straight to news items over the past few months for the company. First, most importantly, a step change here for sure. The partnership with Denison Mines that was announced, whereby the company has obtained a 70% interest in 3 projects with certain exploration and advancement commitments in the years ahead. And also, in exchange, Denison has become roughly a 20% holder, just under that, of COSA equity. Talk about the deal, expected closing. I know we've had another update here just recently, and of course, the importance for the company.
Yeah, definitely. So, really a transformational transaction for us, whereby we did acquire 3 projects from Denison Mines. We'll acquire 70% interest in those projects. Denison will maintain a 30% interest. Importantly, Denison has become just under a 20% shareholder of us, really our largest and most strategic shareholder. And that deal did just close this week. So it's official. We now have acquired those projects. They have appointed 2 members to our team. Jeff Smith, obviously, was joining our board. He's the VP Corp Dev of Denison. And Chad Sorba, another VP from the Denison team, is coming on as a technical advisor. Really a transformational transaction for us. We've kind of, I guess, been drinking from a fire hose over the past few weeks and months, really, to get this deal across the line and closed, so that we can get to work on these projects right away and get drilling here in the next few weeks.
Keith, that sounds great. Yeah, it's a notable deal for the company, and I don't think any of that's been reflected at all in this market. And it doesn't seem to matter what news comes out on many levels. Nobody seems to care at this moment. And of course, we know it will change and things will go in the direction that they're supposed to go at some point here. But just with the 2 gentlemen that were added, real quick, I want to jump to them, given you mentioned them. Jeff Smith as a director, and then also Chad Sorba as a technical advisor. Just talk about these 2 gentlemen and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, for sure. So Jeff Smith, I really worked with him. He was representing the Denison side during this entire transaction. Like I said, VP Corp Dev and Commercial for Denison Mines. Extensive capital markets experience really adds that extra layer of expertise to our board, and just an overall, terrific guy. And so we're excited to have him at a board level. And Chad Sorba. So Chad is also VP at Denison Mines. Chad was really part of the discovery teams at Denison of both the Phoenix and Griffin deposits. So he really had a successful exploration career with Denison, and then he pivoted over to the project development side and has really been helped pioneer that ISR technology on their Phoenix deposit. So we're gaining really a good capital markets expert, and then also Chad bringing an extra layer of technical success to our already very deep bench with our past technical success. So I think, really it's very complementary. And I keep saying this, but it is the best version of the team of our team I've ever been part of. And so we're extremely excited to add those two guys, and I think they're going to provide a lot of additional help and expertise to our team.
Absolutely. It's good to see this. The partner choice, the projects couldn't get much better here for the company. So I think this is a very important step. And I think we're going to see tremendous results coming out over the years ahead here as Denison continues to do its work with its very strong balance sheet and more than partially financed project already at Phoenix, as well as building that pipeline and you guys doing the same on the exploration front as well. So I appreciate the thoughts on that, and of course the people that are helping to contribute here to both companies. With respect to the priorities now with this deal, because this is again a step change for the company, is the plan to allocate resources to the Murphy Lake North project to test the targets there immediately? Will it be a dual focused on some of the Cosa projects and now the Denison partnership projects? Talk a little bit about the plan now, Keith, and the timing.
Yeah, so definitely. So the first project you mentioned there, Murphy Lake North, that is one of the ones we acquired from Denison. It is within 4 kilometers of IsoEnergy's Hurricane deposit. Our management team discovered that deposit in 2018, so we're very familiar with that area. It really has that low-hanging fruit, and it's a long trend of the highest grade indicated resource in the world, and so that is obviously priority number one for us to get drilling there as quickly as we can. We should be able to update the market here in the coming weeks on our drill program there. And like I said, that is the lowest hanging fruit. It's a long trend of Hurricane deposit. Importantly, it also has these parallel trends where we have up to 7 kilometers of it. And Hurricane isn't a one-hit wonder along that trend. Cameco had a lot of success in the past along that Laroque Lake trend, and we're excited to have really a couple parallel trends plus along the main Laroque Lake trend all on our project. And so, like I said, it's an area we know very well. It's obviously near and dear to our heart with our success we had at IsoEnergy. So it makes total sense for us to go there first. And another thing I'll touch on is that it is, relatively shallow drill holes we're going for. It's 250 meters to 300 meters down to the target area. And projects like that are very difficult to get in the competitive landscape of the Athabasca Basin. And so this is very cost-effective exploration. We're a team that obviously knows that area very well, but when we get out and drill this next program, we're talking less than $1 million to really complete it, and a very meaningful drill program that we're excited to do here in the next few weeks. Moving on to some of the other projects, Darby was another one we acquired from Denison. It's one where it's right beside Cigar Lake, obviously the largest uranium mine in the world. It's one where Denison just never got a chance to get around to it. They acquired it. They did a lot of desktop and really getting on the ground, looking at the old core. They identified it as a high priority exploration project, but their focus is really in and around their Phoenix deposit, looking for more feed if they manage to get Phoenix up and running. And so this is a project where they just knew that they wouldn't be able to get around to it in the next few years. And so they gave it to us. And so they're going to maintain 30% in that project also. But it's another one where when you start looking at the old drill holes, the optimal target has not been hit. There's just been enough drilling on these projects where it's really painted a picture of what's happening underneath the ground, but there hasn't really been any killing off of these target areas. And anytime you get a chance to, drill next to the world's largest uranium mine, you jump at that opportunity. So these are two huge projects for us to get. And an important thing to note too is that Denison is maintaining a 30% interest in these projects. They're obviously maintaining 19.9% interest in us, and so they're really staying exposed. They aren't giving up on these projects. They're really staying exposed to what we're doing here at both a corporate level and at a project level. And so they're excited to see these projects worked. And those two projects I think are our priority here for the near future. We've obviously always taken that approach of drill it and kill it, and that's why we do have that big portfolio of 100% owned projects. Ursa was one that we spent really most of 2024 working on, and it's a beast of a project. It's got huge potential. It is one where with the work we've done, it is protected for really a number of years here, and so it doesn't have that pressure for us to get right back to it right away if we don't necessarily need to. Our focus will be Murphy Lake North right away here. And so it gives us good optionality because, at ISO, it's important to remember it was our 7th project where we ultimately made the Hurricane discovery. So we've always taken this drill it and kill it approach, keep looking to upgrade our portfolio of projects, which we've absolutely done here with this Denison transaction. and then get to work and really just keep advancing these projects. And the ultimate goal is a discovery, and so you have to flip through these things, drill the best targets, and get through them as quickly as you can, and not be afraid to pivot if you get something that you think has lower hanging fruit, which is exactly what we're doing here with Murphy Lake North and Darby being our focus here over the short term.
Keith, appreciate how you guys are looking at this. And then, of course, that focus there immediately to get up to Murphy Lake North and test some targets that are just adjacent to a hurricane, which you guys know extremely well. So, yeah, look, I think this is good, and folks should take note. I do think that with this pipeline, with these projects, with some of the results that we have seen, even coming out of Ursa, there's quite a bit of work to be done here, and I think there's a lot of potential here as the market starts to come back in, and you guys have success with that drill bit. That'll be a very key portion here. Of course, be off to the races and lots of things to think of here as well. So appreciate the thoughts. On other news, you guys, just since we last talked, it's been a handful of months since we last talked, Keith, on this program, but the company did report in November and December. You guys reported airborne survey results from a few sites as well as assays from the Kodiak trend on the Ursa project. Talk about those results and if any follow up is planned during, say, the first half of 2025.
Yeah, so we did do an airborne geophysical survey over top of our Aurora and Orbit projects. These are also shallow targets. They cover the edge of the basin, Athabasca Basin, and just outside of the Athabasca Basin. So you're going for almost like those Key Lake targets. Key Lake, was an old historical mine operated by Cameco. That's where they actually currently have the mill that processes the McArthur River ore. This is areas where it is that cost-effective exploration, and we have identified, great-looking targets. And like I said, our priority are Murphy Lake and really Darby, I'd say, for the short term here. But having those projects drill ready is important. And I think, really to end of 2023 throughout 2024, we had to upgrade a lot of our projects. They have fantastic upside. They just hadn't seen a lot of exploration work. And so we had to do all this geophysics. We had to do that boots on the ground and really upgrade them to be drill ready. And now the fun begins. We've acquired, 3 drill ready projects from Denison Mines. We have a whole bunch of pipeline of projects ready to go that are drill ready from our side that are ready, if some of our early drill holes aren't showing what we want on some of these other projects. And then if we do have success at Murphy, at Darby, we can be in a position where we move off of some of these other projects, look for JV partners, and really bring in people that are going to have the capacity to work them as our priorities switch if we do have success at Murphy and at Darby, because we acquired these projects really on the cheap, a lot of the ones that we have, and we've really done good work to upgrade them to this point. Ursa, another one, that, like I said, it is a beast of a project. We have over 60 kilometers of that cable based shear zone. We have significantly upgraded the potential at Ursa just with a year and a half of work that we've put into it. And it was targeting deeper, so it's one where it was more costly for us to be exploring there relative to, say, a Murphy Lake and even a Darby. And so we do still really enjoy that project. We have significantly upgraded it and think there's a huge amount of potential there. But when you look at the targets that we're able to acquire from Denison, our priority has changed. Definitely not giving up on Ursa. It will remain there. Like I said, the good news is that we do have it protected for a number of years here, where we don't have that pressure to go back and do work just to keep it in good standing. It is in good standing, for at least 4 years, and so it does gives us that optionality to go and chase these ones right next to Hurricane, right next to Cigar Lake, and still maintain that entire Ursa project.
Again, I think we've said this before to the audience. SmithWeekly Research has a position with Cosa Resources, and we're proud to have one. Despite the share performance, we think there's a great opportunity out there with this company. And so appreciate how you guys have been able to put together creative deals in a market that's been unfavorable during 2024 for sure. And so far in 25, the same trend continues, but we'll see what happens as the year goes on here. Just on the financing front, Keith, with this deal, which is a notable deal for the company, you guys will have, of course, you guys are basically shifting some of the budget, I think, that was already had over to Murphy Lake North and some of the new initiatives at the company. But just for the audience, talk a little bit about the needs for capital, or if the existing treasury will get you guys through in these market conditions, say for the first half of the year. Just talk a little bit about that and how far you think this could carry the company here with what you guys have planned, plus market conditions not being favorable. Just give us a few thoughts on that front.
Yeah, definitely. So we are fully funded for this upcoming drill program in Murphy Lake North, which would really take us through that first half of this year. I guess a point we didn't touch on in that transaction with Denison is that they put up their hand to participate a minimum of $1 million in future equity financings with us. And so, really having that lead order from them and that support coming does give us optionality to when we have to tap the market to bring in more money. But like I said, we are fully funded for this initial program, Murphy Lake North, and so we are in good shape that way. And I think, like I keep kind of belaboring this point, is that the projects we did get really from Denison are shallower. They are quite cost effective exploration in these areas, and so you can get a lot of bang for your buck. And that money will be put to drilling. We don't need to upgrade it through geophysics and other stuff like that. This money is going in the ground, and so that will allow us to really stretch the dollar here as we really work to advance these projects this year. So I think we are, like I said, we are in good shape for this upcoming program here, and really having Denison there to support us when we need to ultimately tap the market puts us in a unique position, I'd say.
Absolutely. No, and it's good to have a group like Denison there be willing to put up some capital as part of that. So it takes some of the pressure off having to go to the market in general to raise some of that capital. And of course, raising capital is never easy. I guess there's always a point in time when I guess it is easy, but you guys are a better company. So it's obviously a little bit easier for you guys to obtain some of that capital. And with a partner like Denison, that's very reinforcing. And I think that'll start to be priced into this company as you guys continue to progress. With that, the exploration plans here, just talk a little bit more what you can here for kind of that first half in summary, first half 2025, rough timing on how you see things going at Murphy Lake North, when you guys would potentially start, wrap up, when you think some results would start to come in. And then from there, assuming, I guess, two different things, where Darby would fit in on a priority, assuming perhaps that there's not immediate success there at Murphy Lake North. But just talk a little bit about that first half of 2025 as far as the plans and priorities one more time for us. And then also what corporate activities will be ongoing, such as conference appearances during the first half of the year and also awareness work.
Definitely. So Murphy Lake North is our priority for what we call the winter drill season, which is really January through to March in northern Saskatchewan. And so that will be our main drill program that's happening. We still have a few more results that need to come out from our previous 2024 work. That would be our final ANT, which is geophysical survey, our ANT results over top of our Ursa and Orion projects. And then Darby would be something that we'd look to get to here in the summer months, in the second half of 2025, get on the ground there and start drilling. If Murphy Lake North, if we have success, some early success here in this initial program, we'd obviously look to try and get back there in 2025 also. But really, the program looks like we're having drilling through the winter, Murphy Lake North, and then hopefully moving over to Darby to drill in the summer of 2025. And so, as far as results, this initial program at Murphy, we're on pace to get going here in early February. We'd look to upgrade the market kind of, end of February, early March with some of our initial results. Assays, if they are required, would be after that, looking for a few weeks after that. So lots of steady news flow heading into the spring and really into our next drill program in the summer. So we will be at VRIC here in Vancouver. We'll have a booth set up. That's coming up this Sunday and Monday. We're booth 117. I'll also be presenting January 20th at 10:50 a.m. at Workshop 1. So this VRIC will be here in Vancouver. So I encourage people to stop by the booth if they want to have a chat with our team.
Absolutely. Encourage the audience, anybody who's in the Vancouver area, go check that out and meet up specifically with Keith and have a chat, and certainly encourage the audience to go check that out and spend a little bit of time in person. That can go a long ways in this market. And then, of course, some of the awareness work you guys will be doing throughout the year as well.
Definitely.
I want to come back to the basin in just a moment, but before we go and wrap up here, just your thoughts on the uranium market here as we start into 2025, and of course the sentiment out there for juniors so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it is a bit of a head scratcher in the sense of the valuations we're seeing, especially in the junior uranium market itself. The fundamentals, I mean, I'm sure listeners are all aware of it, but the fundamentals of uranium have never been stronger. And each time you hear more news about the industry, it'll be something like Inkai temporarily suspending production. All this stuff continues to add up and continues to create more pressure on the uranium price. And so it's becoming a point of not a matter if, but a matter when, the price is finally going to react. And I think ourselves, especially, you haven't seen that re-rate of the junior uranium companies, but I think our story, we've really started to separate ourselves by bringing in that strategic in Denison, still maintaining that tight share structure so that if we are able to have success with our upcoming drill program, or if there are more tailwinds coming back into the uranium space here in the next few months, you'll see our share price react accordingly. And so I think we have created a bit of a unique story in that sense. And if you take kind of a step back to what we've been able to build really in a short number of years here, gain access to the areas of the basin that are really well protected by the Denisons, the Camicos, the Oranos. We've really set ourselves up, I think, to take advantage of this uranium boom when the tailwinds pick up again and the equities start to react. I think we are a unique story in that sense.
Absolutely agreed. And we'll see this play out as we move along here. This isn't the first time we've had bad sentiment in the sector, or a sentiment low, if you will, in an overall bull market. So not surprised. The timing, really not surprised anymore on that. I mean, we've been in here long enough. There's just not many surprises anymore. And if you've been in the sector like we have, Keith, you and I, for the years that we have, we understand that these happen, and you just have to prepare accordingly and implement the strategies that work during this time versus the other times. And you get through it and you move on, and very comfortable with the fundamentals here. I think, irrespective of fundamentals, I think that the broad market can play a significant role. And even though most people probably would have thought of this 8 years ago, the geopolitics are starting to play a role too. So we've got a few outliers that unfortunately will impact these junior markets, but I do think we'll see some better days ahead here as we move forward. It's just a matter of patience and solvency. We should have some form of fireworks here in 2025 for the sector as well. Back to the basin, Keith. You know, to me, there's a few good and sound companies in the basin, but I think that there's a lot more actors professing to be serious, although they're not. Just highlight for the audience why COSA should be important and top of the list when looking for exploration stage leverage in essentially a saturated area for juniors in the basin. Just highlight why COSA really stands above the group.
So we're a team that's done it multiple times. We've created value even in bad uranium markets, and that's really through discovery. Obviously, during our time at ISO Energy, it dates back my time at Denison Mines, Steve's time also at Denison Mines, and Craig Berry, part of our team here. He was really a founding director of Next Gen Energy. So we've really had our fingerprints a lot of the discovery success in the Athabasca Basin. And what happens with the discovery in the Athabasca Basin is even if the uranium market is poor, the high grade that you're hitting there, you can really see a share price and valuation increase if you do have that success. And that's what we saw at ISO when we had the share price run up from 30 cents to $6.50. So that is our team. And now you start to factor in that we do have brought in Denison Mines, really, really a top development story in the Athabasca Basin itself, deep pocketed partner who's really maintaining a corporate level interest in us, but also, a project level interest in the projects we've acquired from them. And so I think it creates this unique situation where we have this technical team that's had a tremendous amount of success, and now we're getting really that strategic support from a Denison Mines, and we're sitting at a 20 million Canadian valuation. And so we're sitting very low on that valuation curve about what we can potentially do here. And it's very difficult, I think, to reverse engineer what we've managed to build this far in really a competitive uranium market. And so, I think we're sitting in that very unique position where this has worked for us once in the past. When we were at ISO, obviously NextGen was that big strategic partner, and so now we have one where Denison is a big strategic shareholder of us, and we're really replicating what's been successful for us in the past. And so that is what we have, I think, is a value proposition for people team that's done it multiple times, looking to do it again here. We've got the assets now, and we've got really that strategic support.
Keith, thank you for that. And again, I think audience should have to look hard at a lot of the companies in the basin. And it's a study process. And while some of the audience may not have the time we have in the sector, it really is a process of just study, watch, establish the patterns and the characteristics of some of these companies. There's a handful of good ones in the basin, and there's obviously a lot of crap as well. So folks need to be able to decipher and sort that out. And spending time researching and talking with management team is really, really important, both in person, on the phone, et cetera. So definitely Cosa's on very high on our list, and especially in the basin, top on the list for exploration companies. Well, Keith, let's leave it there for now. And for potential investors who are listening in, the company has a market capitalization of about 15 million Canadian dollars. In light of the Denison strategic deal here, why should Cosa Resources be considered within the institutional, family office, and retail investors portfolio at this point for the company?
As I mentioned in the last question, a team that's done it multiple times, created value even in bad uranium markets through the drill bit. Strategic support, having Dennis in there, really to help us lead the charge as we advance these projects. And we're about to be drilling. The drill should be turning here in a few weeks, and that is obviously the biggest catalyst for a company like us, is having success with that drill bit. And we just so happen to be drilling right along trend of a deposit that our team found in 2018. So it's really exciting time for us, and I think those three key things are really what separates us, and should at least put us on people's radar about what we're up to here.
Keith, and how can folks reach out to the company and get in touch?
Yeah, definitely. So please visit our website. You can email us through that. You can follow us on X and reach out to us on any social media. Definitely, I think we have a phone number that you can definitely call to get a hold of us on the website. Sign up for email, subscribe for our email list. Lots of different ways to reach us, but I think heading to our website is the first best thing.
Keith, we appreciate the update. Looking forward to more progress in 2025, and of course, discovery success as well. Of course, you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks, Andrew. Great to be here.